It began quietly, in the turbulent years of 1960s. Oswell Spencer looked upon the world with disdain, seeing only rot in the excesses and complacency of humanity. In his mind's eye, a different world took shape. A utopia forged not for the many, but for the few. A society of the gifted, the brilliant, the elite. The key to this dream lay in a progenitor virus, a strange and ancient organism whispered about in Endopia legend. If its power could be harnessed, it might create beings of superior intellect and ability, superhumans who could stand above the rest of humanity. But Spencer's vision faced formidable obstacles. The virus, in its raw form, was as lethal as it was miraculous. Early experiments left most subjects dead, their bodies unable to endure the transformation. Years of painstaking research would be needed to produce a strain capable of delivering the promises of the myth. There was another problem. Ambition required resources, and the Spencer Foundation alone could not finance such an undertaking. The answer came in the form of a corporation, Umbrella Pharmaceuticals, publicly developed medicines. In truth, would funnel profits into bioweapon research, each weapon a testbed for the virus that would one day reshape the world for a chosen few. And then came the final, most delicate challenge, ensuring that those who survived the transformations would share Spencer's ideals. To shape a mind, one must begin early. Thus, Project W was born, not as a project for volunteers, but as a search for children who will be molded, educated, conditioned to carry forward Spencer's vision of a new world. The first phase of Project W began with a quiet, calculating sweep across the globe. Hundreds of children were chosen, not for who they were, but for the bloodlines they came from. The selection criteria were cold and clinical, measured by the parents' perceived contributions to mankind. Some adoptions were made through legitimate channels, others were far less official, their origins buried in paperwork and false identities. Each child was given a new name, Wesker. It was not a family name in a traditional sense, but a brand, a mark of belonging to something greater, or perhaps something darker. They were placed in the finest schools, provided every educational advantage money could secure, but their privilege was a cage. Every move, every achievement, every failure was watched by the unseen eyes of the Project W team. When they reached adulthood, the Weskers were released into the wider world, though never truly set free. They took up positions across the spectrum of fields, science, business, politics, still under the quiet, constant observation of those who had shaped them. Some gravitated naturally towards Umbrella itself. Among them were Dr. Albert Wesker, a rising figure in the corporation's ranks, and Alex Wesker, whose sharp intellect and ambition drew the personal attention of Spencer. Alex earned something few others had, his trust. She was invited into the inner circle and entrusted with the truth of Project W's existence. Albert, for all his accomplishments, remained in the dark, under the piece on the board, unaware of the hand that had placed him there. By 1998, the long, meticulous culling of Project W had run its course. From hundreds of children scattered across the globe, only 13 remained, deemed the finest, the strongest, the most promising vessels for Spencer's vision. These are the ones chosen for the next and most dangerous step, action with the virus. Methods were subtle, almost surgical in the deception. Some candidates were manipulated through those closest to them. Friends, colleagues, even loved ones unknowingly delivered the fatal gift. Others were lured in with routine medical checkups, unaware that the syringe in the doctor's hands carried not medicine, but destiny. The results were as brutal as they were decisive. 11 of the chosen perished, their bodies unable to withstand a transformation. Only 2 survived. Albert Wesker, whose physiology adapted perfectly, granting him speed, strength, and intellect beyond human limits. And Alex Wesker, whose body harbored no gifts. She was already dying, the infection unable to rewrite a system, ravaged by a terminal, degenerative disease. Yet Alex's mind remained sharp and ambitious. She argued that the failed candidates, the so-called washouts, could still be salvaged, their numbers restored through further experimentation. But her proposal never moved beyond words. In the end, the survivors stood alone. Albert, the perfected product of Spencer's grand design, and Alex, the architect's favorite confidant, armed not with power, but with knowledge. The death of Oswell Spencer in 2006 should have marked the end of the Project W. a dream buried with its creator. But Spencer's legacy was not just in his research. It lived on in the beliefs he had forged into his chosen heirs, the ideals of eugenics, of a world purged and remade, had taken root deep within Albert and Alex Wesker, and each, in their own way, set out to reshape that vision. Albert's path was one of ruthless finality. He conceived the Wesker Project, a viral purge designed to cleanse Earth by killing all who were genetically unworthy. To him, survival itself would be the ultimate proof of superiority, and the new world would be populated only by those strong enough to endure. Alex's vision, though less apocalyptic, was no less ambitious. With her body failing under the weight of degenerative disease, she turned to the T-Phobos Project, a calculated gamble to escape the prison of her own flesh. Her aim was not just survival, but transcendence, to carry her mind to a new vessel and continue the work Spencer had begun. Though their methods could not have been more different, both paths were born from the same seed, a dream planted decades earlier in the minds of two survivors, now twisted into separate, dangerous destinies.